Mister, how do you operate this Twitter thing or this Instagram thing or whatever the heck? You're supposed to know all this stuff. Anyway, welcome back to the show.
The beautiful Dr. K couldn't resist the opportunity to bring us back from break. Official SIT Morn is the ID that you need. Speaking of ID and speaking of NFL, there's a friend of mine who I have been dying to have on the show. He's one of my favorites. He's one of my homies, and I love this man dearly. And he's a Dolphins fan. We're going to concentrate on the Dolphins today. Please help me welcome Apizzle himself.
What?
Alex Putnam.
How did I get here? This isn't where I parked my car. What's going on, Snowman?
How are you, Pizzle?
Doing great. How about you?
Finally, I get you on, man. I know both of us have been so terribly busy and our schedules have not aligned until now. Man, it's great to have you on, and I hope this ain't the only time I have you on.
Dude, I am so blessed to be here. Like you said, it has been a while since you and I have spoken. It's been a while since I've been on the program, believe it or not.
Yes.
Watch it every single day. Gets me up and going. You know,
good.
So
good. This is one of our favorites of the show, and we're gonna get right down to it. It's all about the Miami Dolphins. I had Richmond Webb, 7-time Pro Bowler, on earlier in the week, and I messaged Pizzle that, and his mouth, I think now he just picked his mouth up through the floor because, of course, Richmond Webb, the fabulous blindside blocker for Hall of Famer Dan Marino.
That's right, Dan the man, back in the 90s.
Yep, and those bunch of Miami Dolphins. Let me start there. How fun was it to watch Dan Marino just cook back then, man?
That was an absolute honor and a privilege just to be in the presence of one of the all-time greats. You know what I mean? The way he threw the ball, like he said he likes to throw it, go up and out.
Yep.
Up and out to the Marx Brothers,
Mm-hmm.
O.J. McDuffie.
Yep.
And all those absolute legends to wear the aqua and the orange.
Mm-hmm. Keith Jackson was a tight end for the Dolphins.
Yes, he was. Keith Jackson, Joe Rose, Jimmy Cephalo, who is the play-by-play.
Who's the radio play-by-play voice? Number 81, Jimmy Cephalo. Bruce Hardy appeared in the Super Bowl with the Dolphins. 2 Super Bowls with the Dolphins. Super Bowl 17 and then Super Bowl 19 with the Dolphins. Like I said, when I had Richmond on earlier, we talked about rivalries. And if there's a rival of the Miami Dolphins, it's got to, especially back then with Dan Marino, the one team that kept getting the goat of the Dolphins has got to be Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills. How fun is that? How fun was it to see those two legends just throw the ball all over the place, man?
That was crazy. It was a back and forth battle. Kind of not now with Mr. Josh Allen up in Buffalo, but back then those two are they were Hall of Famers right now, and
it was just so insane. It was just so insane. And there was a playoff game that I remember being away at college, and then I came home, and the first thing my dad turned me on to was a playoff game between the Dolphins and the Bills at Old Rich Stadium in Orchard Park. Marino threw for 3.5. Jim Kelly threw for 4, and it wound up being like 44-34 Buffalo. And only one turnover in the game decided it, and that was a fumble on the kickoff return.
Yep.
That decided the game. Now you got these Dolphins, and they did the right thing in locking in Tua Tagovailoa. And you heard me earlier in the week voice my concerns about Tua, and it had nothing to do with his talent. It had everything to do with his health.
True.
That is the scariest thing for me. You know, people will razz me all the time. You being one of them. Hey, you can't talk about Tua like that. But when you guys hear me and say, look, the only thing that concerns me about Tua is his health. Yes. And that starts up front. The most important part of the team has got to be the offensive line. 100%. What's the offensive line? The offensive line is just so important for a quarterback and a fellow as talented as Tua, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, our offensive line, well, it's got a lot of holes because we lost Connor Williams this offseason. I believe Aaron Brewer is the starting center, who used to be playing for the Tennessee Titans, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at training camp this past Tuesday, and there were a lot of issues when it comes to offensive snaps.
What kind of issues did
they
you
were
see?
like they were snaps were flying over the quarterback's head. They were getting too low.
Mm-hmm.
It was just all over the place. And they need to work on that ASAP because the offense, or one of the quarterback's best friend is the offensive center.
Center.
Mm-hmm.
And for many years, the offensive line of the Dolphins was anchored by one Dwight Stevenson. 8-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer. Absolutely. So we know the offensive weapons that the Dolphins have with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, former 49er Raheem Mostert, who just runs wild in this offense. Of course, the head coach Mike McDaniel, former OC for San Francisco.
You know him pretty well.
There's a lot of tie-ins with how the Dolphins offense works. But again, got to go up front. The 5 guys up front, the big uglies, as the late great Keith Jackson would call them, is so important to make that offense sing. Can you point to a game where it just fell down for the Dolphins and the injuries piled up along the line? They lost 4/5 of their offensive line. But what was the one game that you saw last year that kind of like broke the dam for the Dolphins and just seemed to fall back into place?
It's honestly one of two. It's either the Monday night game against the Tennessee Titans, where we had a 2-touchdown lead and then just laid an egg.
Yep.
Or it's against those Baltimore Ravens, where every single time we play them, we get smacked in the mouth.
Why is it that hard to keep up with Baltimore? Why is it that hard to keep up with Lamar Jackson and company from your eyes?
I honestly have no idea. They obviously do their homework. They watch the tape, and Lamar is honestly, he's one of the best in the league right now. And they proved it last year when they put up, I believe they put 56 points, and we only put up 19.
Mm-hmm.
So
56 points, over 500 yards of offense in that game for Baltimore, and that was in Maryland. So you got all that to deal with. And that Dolphins defensive line, we talking about how important the offensive line is. The defensive line of the Dolphins was great until they got to Baltimore, and then Baltimore just shut them down.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, Jalen Phillips, he got injured in the Jets game, and then in the Ravens game, Bradley Chubb got injured. He tore his ACL, and after that, it was basically whatever happens.
Yeah.
It was after that Cowboys game where it's like we could make some noise, but that was the last game we ended up winning.
Yeah. Yeah, he won that game 22-20 on a walk-off. And this year, there's a certain game that you and I are going to do together. And I believe it is Week 16 in Miami at Joe Robbie Stadium, where Tua hooks up with Brock, this time for a full game and not a partial game. Because remember, 2 years ago, they played at Levi's, and Brock was thrust into the action due to an injury. So he carried the bulk of that here. Haven't had a chance to see how Mr. Purdy has progressed and how these 49ers have progressed. Your early thoughts on them in the NFC?
Well, they are the reigning, defending, undisputed NFC champions for a reason, and I think this year they will most likely do the exact same thing. I mean, the only team I think you guys have to worry about in the NFC is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the Lions came out of nowhere, didn't they, last year? I mean, but with the pieces they have now, Jameson Williams, David Montgomery on offense, Jared Goff is going to be 33 years old this year. But look at how their offense is singing. And Dan Campbell, I mean, kudos to him and how he led that Detroit Lions team.
former Miami Dolphins interim head coach, Dan
Mhm.
Campbell, back in
Mhm.
2015.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
What turned the light on finally, you think, for the Detroit Lions to get as far as they did?
Well, honestly, they play in the NFC North.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go up against Chicago. They're bad. Got to go up against the Minnesota Vikings. They're inconsistent.
Yeah.
Got to go up against the Green Bay mother-loving Packers.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over the place, but they finally got their guy in Jordan Love.
They did.
But with the Lions, you got all them pieces, those great coaches, and they put it together.
They did. A great quarterback lead your team. We see it all through the NFL. You and I talk about it every week. You do it every week on your show and make the quarterback comparison. There's a couple that I want to touch on with you. And the first one is Caleb Williams. I have been getting lit back and forth when I said, and you were there with me.
Mm-hmm.
You were riding shotgun with me when I said don't trust Caleb Williams.
Yes.
Now there's a group that Victor, God love him, put together saying the Midwest Committee of Bear Idiocy. They are loving Caleb Williams. Yeah, wait till you hear what we have for the Cowboys. They love Caleb. They love Caleb Williams. You and I have seen Caleb Williams, and we're not watching the same person, are we?
Yeah, it's almost like it's total 180. You know, we see them, we see him. I don't know how Chicago's going to do it, but you know, we'll just have to wait and see. Just have to wait and see.
I mean, I'll say it again. I said this earlier in the week, and I'll say it right here. They not only mortgaged their future, but have now risked it with an extension, doubling down on DJ Moore, who is a number 2 at best. They gave him 4 years and $110 million. Y'all heard the show earlier in the week where a lot of Bear fans came after me saying, "Oh, they made the right move. They made the right move." Yeah, here's 2 problems. 1, you don't have a line in front of you. And 2, you got number 18 manning your team, and you're going to trust the services of DJ Moore to a rookie. What is wrong with this picture? Did I miss something?
Nope. No, you did not. But I'm on the opposite side. I think it is smart for them to re-sign DJ Moore because, like the offensive line, quarterback's best friend is the guy who catches the ball.
And it gives them an anchor on the receiving core.
A building block.
It gives them a building block, and it gives them a major anchor on the receiving core. Every playoff contending team has an anchor, and DJ Moore is going to be that anchor for them. As much as I razz on DJ Moore, he's a foundational piece for them.
Big time.
How do you think the Bears will use one DeAndre Swift, who they snatched in free agency?
Swift, I think he's going to be a solid option for them. I'm not sure who their running back is of now. Is he the number 1?
He's the number 1.
Okay. I think he's going to do solid. I think he's going to do pretty solid. You know, I don't think he's going to be like 1,500 yards or anything like that.
Right.
But I think he's going to be, he's going to be a solid player for them. You know? So, yeah. Solid.
So a friend of mine saw the Madden cover and immediately got a hold of me because his team, the Raiders, were chasing my guy, Christian McCaffrey. And he let me have it for about 10 minutes, and I'm just sitting in here laughing to the point where my wife heard me come in, and she saw the cover, and she says, "Did they really have to put the Raiders behind Christian McCaffrey?"
Oh, man.
I turned around and I said, "Honey, it's Christian McCaffrey."
Yes.
We have both seen McCaffrey up close. Does it matter? It seemed like let's dive in on McCaffrey. He was good in Carolina.
Yes.
Don't get it twisted. He was good in Carolina. But something about being in Kyle Shanahan's system has unlocked him. And the biggest point, and we've talked about it throughout this segment, he stayed healthy.
Yes.
That's been the biggest blessing for Christian McCaffrey.
100%. 100%. That guy is an absolute monster. You know, when you guys traded him from the Panthers, I said right away that is going to be a game changer.
Yeah. You were one of the first to get hold of me because it was a late night deal, and I remember I was turning everything off, and then you were one of the first alerts, and all you said was, "Are you kidding me?" And I looked everything up. Exactly. I looked everything up, and I went, "Wait a minute, what happened?" And I see Christian McCaffrey, and I'm like, "Okay, the Panthers made a trade." And then they traded it. And then the trade was to San Francisco. And I went, what? And woke up my wife. I woke up Jody, and I came in. She says, okay, something huge happened. Lay it on me.
Well, something big.
Yes. You know Jody's a football nerd like I. Okay. She saw that trade, and her eyes went, what? She said, how did y'all get so lucky? I said, look, every other team in the NFL would love to have had the services of Christian McCaffrey. I guarantee you, every other team in the NFL would love to have had Christian McCaffrey. The Rams and the Bills were the two top teams that were going to make a play for him. But somehow John Lynch snuck in at the last second under the deadline and snatched McCaffrey.
Thank God he didn't go to Buffalo. Oh my God. I don't.
That would have been Thurman Thomas all over again.
Don't even want to think about that. You kidding me? Going against that guy twice a year?
Yes. Imagine how the rest of the NFC West feels.
Where's Bishop Bullwinkle at?
Oh my God.
Where's Bishop Bullwinkle? I know what they're thinking of themselves.
Woo! Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no.
Right.
You know what else they're thinking. I think with the sound that we play often here, I think they were also thinking,
what in the all types of blue hell?
100%.
To your show that's coming this year with the Pick'ems, which is an absolutely fabulous show. I've had many chances to step on that, be on that show with you. It's great. But it's going through a change, is it not?
It is. We are reverting back to our original name. We used to be called the Pain and Gain Pick'ems.
Okay.
We used to be, a couple seasons, we transitioned to the Four Horsemen of Pick'ems with myself, Elsie Muscles 28, Tiny Tim, and Steel Sermon. But we decided to switch back to our original name because last year there was only 3 of us for majority of the show, majority of the season.
Right.
And we felt it was necessary to, in order to go one step forward, you got to take just one little step back.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing this season with Pain and Gain Pick'ems.
Pain and Gain Pick'ems every single week. That's where you can get your expert picks, and then you can come make your picks also here on Snowman in the Morning. And we always compare notes. We always compare notes with our picks.
Yep.
And it's so much, that show is so much fun. One of the times I was on there, folks, I started here in office, but then my daughter creeps up behind me and says, I gotta go to work. So I tell the guys, I'm like, I gotta make a quick transition, and I did the rest of the show in the car. And Sonya,
that's totally fine.
Sonya was just cracking up. Now Sonya's not a football person; she's not a sports person, period. But Sonya was cracking up, and she says, "These are the guys you hang out with when you do shows." I'm like this, yes.
Oh yeah. That's right.
And it's, I got to say it again. It's so much fun. The Pain and Gain of Pick'ems, that show every week where you guys break down every single game to the point where you have who's announcing it. And what I'll borrow from that is to mention the radio teams of that when I do my picks this year, because one person that I reference a lot is the legendary Paul Allen.
Are you kidding me?
Longtime voice of the Minnesota Vikings. And when that moment happened against Seattle, I remember vividly. I was sitting in a Starbucks. I had my headphones on, and I had KFAN on, which is the flagship station for the Vikings.
Yep.
And I heard that, and I dropped everything. I went, what? And then I saw him. Then they posted a video of him because they were playing at TCF Bank Stadium at the time before they built US Bank. His reaction was so priceless.
Amazing.
That reaction amazing. Of Paul Allen, and was his team that was getting knocked out the playoffs, but he quickly was able to recover, saying, "And the Seattle Seahawks are off to Charlotte." I'll never forget how that
the
ended.
Season can't end like that.
Snap, good spot down. Walsh is kicking us up, and it is no good. He missed it.
Are you kidding me?
And
the season can't end like that.
I'm gonna have to find that sound now and send it not only to you but to Romy, who's the sound expert for the show.
Yes.
And I know Romy would go completely nuts having that sound,
having that in his arsenal.
One of the times I was on there, Romy and I went at it with our sound bases for
the soundboard battle.
The soundboard battle. And I had so many of my friends get a hold of me, and they bring that clip, and they said, "How did this happen?" I said, "Look, Apizzle invited me on, and I had my sounds together, and then Romy had his, and
back and forth.
I thought LC was going to die that night.
I think he did. I think he did. I think we had to revive him a couple times.
There were a couple times he had to step off camera.
Yes, he had to turn his camera off. He had to turn his camera off.
He had to turn his camera off. And it all started with
Tiger uppercut,
which I sent to Romy. And as soon as that sound was played, all hell broke loose. And then I got Apizzle laughing when I broke out.
What in the all types of blue hell?
And folks, it was on after that.
Oh yeah, it was on like Donkey Kong.
Oh, it was on. It was on after that. We're up against the break, but this is my man Alex Putnam, aka Apizzle, our insider for the Miami Dolphins. He'll be with us all throughout the season. I love you, brother, so very much. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. And as always, stay classy. Peace out and fins up. Bye-bye. Oh, yeah.
Y'all will see him and I together week 16 down in Miami, and we're going to be talking all that week. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back.
This is Snowman in the Morning.